Hello everyone, John Pollock here. Alongside Jimmy Corderas, we're getting set for the WWE's Payback event. It's Sunday night in Baltimore, Maryland. Any memories of Baltimore, Mr. Corderas, from your lengthy travels?
Yeah, the name has been changed like 42 times.
What is it, the Royal Farms Arena now?
Oh my, it was the first Mariners Arena. I don't know. There were so many different names. The thing that I remember most was Baltimore was the place when on SmackDown when Arnold Schwarzenegger showed up.
Oh, to face Triple H?
Yeah, and gave him
smack him?
Yeah, gave him the famous backhand.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was cool. And I'd never seen him live and in person before, and you have these misconceptions sometimes about stars. You hear that, well, Tom Cruise is only 4'2", and Stallone's not very tall. Schwarzenegger's a pretty big guy. And he was a lot bigger than I thought, anyways.
And did you get to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger? Was he personable?
Yeah, he was. I got to shake his hand, say hello. I didn't want to get.
Did you think at the time, man, future Hall of Famer right there?
Not exactly.
Well, that was essentially his pivot point. Was that SmackDown episode in 1999 into the Hall of Fame?
Who knew that the back of his hand would get him into the Hall of Fame?
Unbelievable. A true worker.
Yeah,
get the most out of the least.
See, they come from everywhere.
Baltimore as well. I mean, it had the easiest arena to remember for so long. Simply the Baltimore Arena.
Yeah. Oh, what a concept.
Man,
name the arena after the town you're actually located in.
If we just had the Toronto Dome down the street, how much easier would that be to remember?
Well, at least people would know where it is.
Well, they're going to know this Sunday, potentially. We've got a four-way main event. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Randy Orton after shifting it from the original three-way concept to incorporate Dean Ambrose. So this will be technically the first kind of meeting of all the Shield members, at least in a pay-per-view environment. What do you think about the four-way and kind of stretching Randy Orton into another pay-per-view main event with Rollins?
It made sense for Randy Orton to be stretched into another pay-per-view with Rollins. That part I get. And inserting Roman Reigns, again, it's more the progression of Roman Reigns, getting him to the level where they want him to be before WrestleMania, because obviously that got kind of sidetracked a little bit. The big question mark for me is adding Dean Ambrose to this match, because, I'm like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other with this one. I like the idea of taking him and actually doing something with him, because he was kind of floundering, obviously, before getting...
Especially when you compare to the fall, when Roman Reigns was hurt and Dean Ambrose was pretty much inserted into that spot and was doing well. I think people were taking to him, and then it's not like this guy was buried on television and getting beat, but he was put off to the side, and you forgot about him.
Right, absolutely. But now in the absence of someone like a Daniel Bryan, there needs to be another babyface, someone on the babyface side that could at least, be elevated, and I think Dean Ambrose could be the guy. Was it too soon? I guess we'll see on Sunday.
Well, it certainly gives you a lot of options, which can be good and bad. I think fans, they genuinely get excited for events where there are consequences for the loser. I look back to a few years ago when you had CM Punk with like the lengthy title reign, and then Ryback, who had the undefeated streak for so long. And you knew in this Hell in a Cell match, man, we're going to get a winner and a loser. And they incorporated Brad Maddox, and it kind of took the air out of the sails, because you wanted to see a winner and a loser. And in a four-way environment, you know that, you know what, Roman Reigns is probably not taking the fall in this particular match, and you've created options for yourself to get out of this match, keeping the title on Seth Rollins, and probably, with the announcement that Elimination Chamber is coming back, some kind of controversy to immediately set up Seth Rollins in a match 2 weeks later.
Yeah, and like you said, 2-week build to the next pay-per-view special.
Are we still going to call it a pay-per-view?
Well, it's exclusive to the WWE Network.
That's
for
right.
only $11.99 in Canada.
Oh boy.
Yeah, sure. I watch Cheap Pops with Mick Foley, so what can I say? So again, we talked about this before we started filming here, that the business model has changed for the WWE, and everything seems to be driven to the network. And I guess that's what they're going to do going forward. And going back to the four-way, the problem I have with this is not the fact that it's a four-way match, and you, like you said, Roman Reigns probably won't get pinned. If there's going to be one or two guys are going to get pinned, it's either Dean Ambrose or Randy Orton, in my opinion. But there's too many other stuff going around there. I mean, J&J Security obviously going to get involved. Kane's playing a part in this as well.
Kane's the focal point of this match.
Yeah, exactly. And there's too much going on, I think. Sometimes keeping it simple is just best.
And it could very well lead to, because for those that are not aware, we have Elimination Chamber that's going to be May 31st. You're going to have 2 chamber matches, one for the vacant IC title, which we'll discuss, one for the tag titles, and now they've also announced that Seth Rollins will defend his title on that show. Given the fact it's a quick build, I feel that this could be the Seth Rollins-Kane match happening at Elimination Chamber. Kane really doesn't fit into those other matches. You want to have, presumably, Orton, Reigns, Ambrose, somewhere perhaps in that cell match. If you want to make the IC title something that is coveted by all the talent, they might find themselves in that position. That could be our match coming out of this, is Rollins and Kane in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it could be. And Kane could be that bridge opponent to get Rollins through to SummerSlam, which we're assuming, we don't know for sure.
Let's be honest, we're just on a long bridge from WrestleMania to SummerSlam. That is what this period is perfectly encompassed by, a bridge.
Call it the Lesnar Bridge.
The Lesnar Bridge.
The Lesnar Bridge. That's what it is exactly. And you know what? Kane is a decent opponent for him. I think it lends credibility to the title reign if Seth Rollins, most likely, I think, will come out of this Sunday with the title. Going in, further with Elimination Chamber. Then we got Money in the Bank.
2 weeks after that.
2 weeks after that.
So we're in the era of 14-day builds now.
Yes, absolutely. So like you called it, maybe it's this generation's Saturday night's main event. So you got to do something to build to the mega shows, one of the big 4, which is SummerSlam.
It's, in a weird way, we've almost backtracked to everyone called for maybe we need less pay-per-views and just go to your big 3, your big 4 every year. That's essentially what we have now. I think the average wrestling fan, they view Rumble, WrestleMania, and SummerSlam. Those are your key shows every year. And even though we'll market them as such, as pay-per-views, these shows are very much your Clash of the Champions, Saturday night's main events. And that's kind of the model. You are going to subscribe to the network. If you are subscribed, it's more content that you're getting. Right. But the importance factor has been lessened. I don't think you can take that away, the fact that this Payback show, it just feels it's closer to a Raw than it is a pay-per-view at this point.
Yeah, a glorified Raw. Yeah.
Let's discuss, you're assuming Seth Rollins comes out with a title intact here?
I think so. I think, like I said, either Randy Orton or Dean Ambrose. I think there's going to be a lot of teasing of a reuniting of the Shield. I don't think it's going to happen. I think there's going to be a lot of teasing of it. I know a lot of people would like to see it, but I think it's counterproductive to all 3 guys if they were to get back together.
Is there an argument that of the 3 challengers that there's an idea that switching one of them into the heel role would be beneficial, given that there's just such a lack of depth? The fact that we're talking about Kane main eventing, Big Show will be returning, and then outside of that, I mean, whatever is next on the horizon for a John Cena, you look at the heels, and you've got Sheamus, you've got Barrett. Could a Dean Ambrose, for instance, could that be a fresh coat of paint turning him, or do you like where everyone's role is at the present time?
I do kind of like where everybody's role is. I think Roman Reigns is starting to catch on. I think the Philadelphia hangover from Royal Rumble is
the backlash is gone. It was I think people viewed it as a main event they weren't stoked for with Reigns in that position, but coming out of WrestleMania, that's largely disappeared.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at Roman Reigns' body of work since then, especially on specials, pay-per-views, whatever you want to call it. WrestleMania had a tremendous match with Brock Lesnar. Before WrestleMania with Daniel Bryan. After WrestleMania, he got a great match out of the Big Show in Extreme Rules.
His gimmick now is that he kills himself in matches.
Yeah, pretty much. But he's doing fine. I think if you stay the course with him, I don't like turning Dean Ambrose yet. Mm-hmm. I mean, like I said, there needs to be another elevated babyface, and he could possibly be the guy. He seems to catch on. It's all about engaging your audience, and Dean Ambrose seems to engage the audience. They seem to be with him.
And if anything, what we can take away from Roman Reigns is like how important timing is. And with Dean Ambrose, there is a great heel character and a heel run in that guy. Is now the perfect time when you do have a heel champion, when Brock Lesnar will be coming back. Where would Dean Ambrose fit in? I mean, outside of, the bridge period, I mean, is now the best time to be turning someone when, the top end of the picture on the heel side is largely locked up. So that would be the counter argument to the point I bring up. Mm-hmm. Let's chat about the status of the Intercontinental Championship. Daniel Bryan announced on Raw he's vacating it, had an MRI recently, and kind of it's up in the air when this guy will be back, if he will be back at all. And it creates a situation now where the title is going to be placed up for grabs at the Elimination Chamber show. And we were discussing earlier the fact that they've done a very good job with the U.S. title, which will segue into the next match. They're doing the I Quit match, John Cena, Rusev, 4th straight event with those two. But I think a small part of it has been the fact that this title has been focused on and not been watered down by having an IC title defended at the same time. All the focus has been on that U.S. title, and I think it's pretty obvious that we only need one of these versions of the title, and I don't really see a need for the IC title past this point.
Well, I've been a proponent of unifying the titles for a long time now, and I think this just, like you said, goes to show that with the IC title not being defended, not being on television, is a good argument for it because John Cena has done so much to elevate the United States Championship. The open challenges have been fantastic. And again, Cena haters, he's been getting great matches out of everybody. And people will keep saying the same thing over and over. It's his opponents who are carrying him. Wait a minute. There's one constant in every match. It's John Cena. He may not be the best technical wrestler out there, but he's a good worker. And a good worker, what he does is engage the audience. And that's what John Cena does. Whether you like him or not, he gets a reaction.
And I fully expect to see that on Sunday. I mean, you look at Cena's body of work, these styles of matches, I quit matches. I mean, he is tremendous in these particular scenarios. And I expect that they're going to get a great match together on Sunday.
Look at the variety of opponents, too, that he's faced. Everybody from Neville to Sami Zayn to whoever happens to come out. He had a good match with Khali, the great Khali.
2007.
Yeah, so imagine. Come on, guys.
Do you feel that, as a purist, Jimmy, that you identify yourself as, what do you think right now of the trend that, John Cena's been using, and he's certainly not the only one guilty of this, of, false finishes with the AA and relying on that, because that seems to be the easy formula now to get a great match. The crowd does respond. Do you think that long term there are side effects to those styles of matches and just the amount of them?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of kicking out of people's finishes almost on a weekly basis. That's what it seems like. It used to be where you take The Undertaker, for example. Nobody kicks out of the tombstone, but at WrestleMania, when somebody kicks out of the tombstone, it's like, oh my God, he kicked out of the tombstone. Mm-hmm. Nobody's ever kicked out of the 3D, but that's a different story altogether. But, when you constantly kick, that's why finishes keep evolving and changing and getting a little more risky, so to speak, because you keep raising the bar. Mm-hmm. And the more you do it, the more creative you have to come up with new finishes. And a finish should be something that you could perform on any opponent regardless of size. So it makes it even more difficult. So if you keep kicking out of everybody's finish, it kind of, bastardizes it.
Yeah, it's like the style of booking right now with AJ Styles in New Japan Pro Wrestling. There have been real injuries that have come out of the Styles Clash, and as a result of that, they've turned the Styles Clash into the most dangerous maneuver in New Japan, where even the tease of it gets an ooh from the crowd, and nobody is kicking out of the Styles Clash. Right. And when someone does, it's going to be a giant moment. It will make somebody that kicks out of that Styles Clash because it's been so well protected. But, the flip side is the audience responds to this style of match.
True.
The question is, over the long haul, is that now going to be expected that the first AA is not going to elicit that reaction because it's now a given that we're probably going to get a number of false finishes before the actual one?
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. And you take the DDT, for example, is a perfect example. When Jake Roberts used to use the DDT, nobody else used it, and nobody ever kicked out of the DDT. And then all of a sudden, now you get people kicking out of the DDT. They kick out of tornado DDTs. They kick out of DDTs where guys are in the air flying around. I mean, it ends up becoming a transition move as opposed to a finish, and I think it's going to hurt in the long run.
John Cena, should he keep the U.S. title on Sunday? Because you have created a scenario where you very much could have a title switch with John Cena being wronged.
Yeah, I know it looks like it's going towards the Rusev-Lana split. I hope that doesn't happen. I think they work better as a pair as opposed to two solo acts. And yeah, you can make an argument for both. You can make an argument because Cena's reign as U.S. champion has worked so well. You can continue it going forward, but at the same time,
maybe he loses it and he announces he's going for the Intercontinental title.
Hey, it's happened before. Where
I would be happy if he won this match and said he's going after the Intercontinental title to unify it.
There you go. And then him and Rusev, who is the new U.S. champion, have a rivalry over unifying the titles. Yeah, that works for me.
Maybe they'll just have a match every month for the rest of the year.
You know what? They actually have pretty good chemistry and they have pretty good matches. Rusev, I think, is really good.
Listen, I think he's one of the more improved performers that they have had. And when that guy was like watching him in NXT, he did nothing for me. And when he was called up, I thought this was going to be 2 months at best, and then he'd be out of there. And instead, he's really risen up. He's been protected. And I think Lana, in no small part, has very much helped and emphasized that character.
Now, I don't know who brought it up on the Law on Sunday, but somebody brought up that Lana may pull an Elizabeth.
Oh, right.
From SummerSlam.
Yes, with the distraction finish with the skirt coming off.
But that almost would kind of work in reverse, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it distract Rusev more than it would Cena?
I guess that would remain to be seen. I don't feel John Cena would be the kind of character that would be so stunned by a woman's underwear that he would be the distraction finish. I think people would really dump on a finish like that in an I Quit match.
I hope they don't do it. Obviously, there's different scenarios. You could see Lana throwing in the towel for Rusev, causing more rift.
Yep. Absolutely.
I don't know.
A few possibilities for that one, but I have liked the John Cena run. I think you still have a lot of gas in the tank for that run, and it's been working well thus far. Some other matches to quickly chat about before we wrap up. Bad News Barrett against Neville, and then Dolph Ziggler against Sheamus. I have no doubt the matches are going to be very good. In particular, the Sheamus-Dolph Ziggler match, I just feel I've seen this match so many times already, and you can throw Barrett into the mix as well. Neville, not as much. But it's like they are just in this role that fans have slotted them in, and it's just trading wins and losses, and it just doesn't feel like they are progressing to the next level, and they'll probably be feuding 6 months from now.
Yeah, and it goes back to, again, something we discussed before we started filming here was...
We should really tape our
you know what?
Our pre-tapes.
Bring a camera and just follow us around, kind of like TNA does in the backstage area.
Yeah, we'll just have the cameraman that we don't acknowledge. It's just, we're just having a private conversation. There happens to be a camera
and
here.
You're not here. But, again, it goes back to, like, everybody talks about the Attitude Era and the content of the Attitude Era being why it was so successful. I keep saying that the success of the Attitude Era was the entire roster was full of guys you cared about. And they were involved in issues and rivalries and feuds that people cared about. Right now, it's like, okay, we're feuding because you didn't kiss my ass. Arse. Sorry, it's arse, apparently. Yeah, you gotta come up with stuff that people get emotionally invested in. They want to see why these two guys want to fight each other. And as far as Neville goes, I like where he is so far. I don't want it to be too soon, because we see when you push somebody too soon that sometimes it has a negative backlash.
Yeah, he seems to be, he's in a position where I feel throughout his 2 months on the main roster, it's been kind of one step forward, one step back, one step forward, one step back. He hasn't by any means floundered. I think he really benefited from Monday night and the fact they didn't just beat him. It was instead he had the champion beat when Rusev ran in. I thought he got to display a lot of offense and people took to him. People like Neville. I just feel that if he is always slotted in this role, he'll float into that Kofi Kingston role, where Kofi Kingston is a tremendous talent, but after so long, people realized this guy is in this spot for life.
Yeah, kind of like Dolph Ziggler, for example. He's
guy very much at that stage.
He's a guy that I think is slotted by the company now as a guy, okay, we need to have a great match to get so-and-so over. Who do we put him in there with? Dolph Ziggler's fantastic. Let's put him in there with Dolph Ziggler. He'll look like $1 million because Dolph Ziggler can make guys look like $1 million. He's a bumping machine. So he's kind of like in that Bermuda Triangle of great worker who kind of just going to be the guy that has great matches with guys.
The New Day will be taking on Tyson Kidd and Cesaro, 2 out of 3 falls match. The New Day have really resurrected this gimmick. I think flipping them over into heels, it's given them new life. The crowd is now into them. They're having fantastic matches with Cesaro and Kidd. It's been a real turnaround for these three who were they were dying on the main roster.
Yeah, coming out as babyfaces in that positive role, I guess it's just the way fans perceive babyfaces nowadays. They don't want to see nice guys clapping. So
who wants to see that? Come on, Jimmy.
I don't want to see nice guys clapping, but I like the fact that now some personality is coming out in Big E. You're getting a little bit of personality coming out in him. You're getting Kofi on the mic a lot more than you did before, and he's starting to show a little bit of a different side as well. Xavier Woods, what can you say? The guy's talented all around on the mic as well. I think this is a perfect fit for them right now. I'm just curious, in 2 out of 3 falls, Is it New Day's rules?
Yeah, they've kind of left it up in the air. Are we going to? Can they switch? I bet you they will do that spot where they lose the first fall and then sub in Big E for Xavier Woods.
A change on the fly, kind of like hockey.
You can be a little creative there.
Yeah.
100%.
Why not?
And the final match we're going to chat about, they also have announced Bray Wyatt taking on Ryback for the pay-per-view. And then on the pre-show, we've got the Mega Powers, or the Minor Powers, Curtis Axel and Macho Mandow, which, with all due respect to Damian Sandow, one of the worst Randy Savage impressions I have ever heard, making Jay Lethal just shake his head. They will take on the Ascension. I don't know what you thought about this segment on Monday. I thought it was terrible. And for Sandow, I think it's just such a giant leap back when this guy just cut a promo about how he had to overcome all these stupid ideas and impressions to get the respect of the people. And immediately he is going right back to this well with a character that I don't even feel had a week of effectiveness.
No, and with Damian Sandow, I was hoping that he would go back to being the intellectual savior of the masses, coming out and saying, listen, what I went through the last few months with the Miz and stuff had made me realize that I am smarter than this. I am above this. I'm the most intelligent man on the planet, and go back to the blue bathrobe. I was hoping for that. I like that character, but I digress. What can I say?
I feel at times a lot of characters it's overthinking too much. Yeah. I don't know if you saw the E60 piece that they did on the NXT personalities. Yeah. And, in that 1 hour, you learned more about Ray Lapon, Adam Rose, than you had after a year and a half of main roster exposure. Ditto Corey Graves, Xavier Woods. Yep. And Damian Sandow cut that promo a few weeks ago where the first half, prior to Axel coming out, you felt like this was the real person explaining his feelings, his real life frustrations, and there was a connection level there. And I'm not saying that every single person can just be themselves on television. You need the out there characters. You need a variety. I think that's what draws people to professional wrestling. But I think at other times, there has to be some middle ground between what we saw of Ray Lapon on ESPN and the Adam Rose character, because the responses are as far away, diametrically opposed as possible. One connected, and one has not had a prayer of connecting with its audience.
Well, it's kind of like you said. And when he was cutting his promo, like you said, the first half was real. It felt real. People
responded well to it, I thought.
And then you went from reality era to full-out sports entertainment, and that switch, there was no segue into it, and it didn't fit. It absolutely didn't fit in that segment. So I think that's the reason why this whole thing with Damian Sandow is not working. Going back to the E60 piece, Ray Lapon, on a personal note, man, that he's a real life hero, that guy. And I have a newfound respect, like I didn't know his personal backstory. And, hats off to him. I hope all the success in the world for the guy.
Yeah, I mean, gut-wrenching to watch. And if you haven't, definitely check out the piece. But certainly somebody that you hope can find that kind of success, because people are rooting for this guy after seeing a piece like that. It was very moving with his child and the problems he's had with him. And I just think that there's a lot of just finding a guy, and we've got to put so much comedy into them that it's just... There's not a giant success rate. For every Santino Marella, there are a million Curtis Axels. And I think Damian Sandow is a very talented guy, but he's given so little. And you throw in the primetime players, and it just seems that there's overabundance of these goofy characters that a large part of the audience just turns off to. They don't have any reaction to them. And this is a current roster that it needs stars. It needs people to elevate, and your bottom of the card, your mid card, it's like, we're good. We've got people at the bottom here. Your comedy, I just think there's a lot of talented people that you can evolve out of just simply comedy, and the crowd would be pretty much in unison in support of that.
I absolutely agree. I couldn't add anything better to that.
The State of the Industry, brought to you by John Pollock and Jimmy Corderas as we head into Payback. It's coming up this Sunday night from Baltimore, Maryland on the WWE Network. Immediately afterwards, you can tune into live audio wrestling coming up at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. You can listen on Sirius XM 167. TSN Radio, we're going to be joined by Samoa Joe. Maybe the final appearance from Samoa Joe for quite a while. I understand there's a chance he might be going into a witness protection program where you have to undergo a name change.
Oh, the whole bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Actually, he's going to be in Toronto on June 6th.
That is why he's going to be on the show promoting his appearance for Smash Wrestling. He'll be taking on Chris Hero. You can check out our friends smash-wrestling.com. For Jimmy Corderas, I am John Pollock. We'll chat with you next week coming out of Payback.